When it's too hard to believe it, and you feel so alone, nothing's right, nothing's clear, and it's too big to conceive in. God, are you really there? That's when I swear I hear a whisper in my ear. I am here, right where you are, part of every mountain, part of every star. And you are here, right where I am, part of every ocean, every grain of sand. I'm as close as the very breath you breathe. I am here, and I will always be. I am here. I am here, inside of you, part of everything you say, all we see, hear and do, and you are here. You're here with me, part of everything that's felt, all that will ever be. I am close as the very breath you breathe, part of you, and I will always be. When it's too big to believe in, and I feel so alone, nothing's right, nothing's clear, and it's too hard to conceive in. Tell me, God, are you really there? That's when I swear I hear a whisper in my ear. I'm here, right where you are, part of every sunrise, every sunset, every moon and star, and you are here. You are here right where I am, part of every ocean, every grain of sand. I'm as close as the very breath you breathe. I am part of you, and I will always be. I am here. I am here. I am here. if you want to sing that line with me, would you do that? I am here, gorgeous. Again, I am here. Feel God inside you, and I am here. One more time. I am here. I am here. And I will always be.
All right.
This month we've had a gratitude challenge, and this is week 3. Embracing challenges with gratitude. How they've helped you grow and how they have shaped your spiritual journey. Consider journaling about moments of difficulty and finding gratitude for the lessons they've provided. This week, to acknowledge both the light and the dark aspects of life with acceptance and gratitude. Last week, we had gratitude for relationships, and I have a few to share from our members. From Gina, time with my family. And from me, I'm grateful for my family. From Debbie, releasing, moving forward, family and friends. And from Russ, opportunities to pray for myself and others. Thank you, Russell. And Nancy, grateful for the experience of this resonance. That was correct. Okay, I couldn't quite read it. I guessed at that word. Got it right. So week 4 is going to be gratitude for life and existence. So you might want to be thinking about that. Got to uncover it. Gratitude for life and existence. Yeah, that's pretty easy after this difficult one. Thank you.
Please join me in prayer. We are so grateful for the opportunity to come together yet again, to explore abundance in the many forms that it shows up in our lives as, what it looks like, and how it works to make the world better. And what I know is that coming together here to celebrate that abundance, to celebrate that gratitude for one another and for all the other gifts that we receive, that everything that takes place here today will be absolutely perfect. I'm so grateful for everyone who's come together to make this service possible. For Karen, whose angelic voice always gets us moving. For Travis, who makes us look very good online. Grateful for our ushers, our hospitality team, our practitioners. We're grateful for our leadership council, who's been working tirelessly to help us keep the lights on. And we're especially grateful and honored for Reverend Kelly, through whom Spirit's going to speak today and deliver a message of abundance that everyone within the sound of our voices needs to hear. I give thanks for every beautiful light being here in this sanctuary that has come together to celebrate our allness as a community and our connection to God and to all of creation. And release these words into divine law, where it's already done in the universal mind. I let this go, I let it be. Together we affirm. And so it is. Our first words of inspiration come from Gabrielle Bernstein. True abundance isn't based on our net worth, it's based on our self-worth. From Candy Paul. When I began to act on the premise that God wanted good for me, I found that letting go and leaping into that belief began to free me from the box of poverty and fear that I placed myself in. From our founder, the Honorable Dr. Ernest Holmes. We all come into this world with a subjective tendency toward negative conditions. But we also deal with a subjective tendency toward ultimate good, because in spite of all conditions, humankind believes more in the good than in the evil. This is the eternal hope and sense of all life. I've got a rap sheet on our beautiful guests. I keep one. I keep a rap sheet on everybody that comes in. And it's been a while, but Kelly's been here before, you know. So I'd just like to remind everybody of all the amazing things she does, because she brings a modern voice to ancient teachings, empowering us to live our lives fully using principles of love and universal law. Kelly's a frequent contributor to the Science of Mind magazine and is the author of Trust Your Next Step, Creating Confidence to Cut Fresh Tracks. And she has a podcast, too, Fresh Tracks with Kelly. So wherever you get your podcast, you can download and hear what she's up to and what she's talking about. It's even better when we're here and we have her here and get to find out. But, you know, if you need a Kelly fix before she comes back, we've got her podcast. So Kelly believes that by living divine purpose, approaching life as a fun adventure, and trusting our next step, we can all live our lives filled with purpose and passion. She's a mom of 3. I'm still not buying this, but it says here she's a grandmother and an avid skier. I don't know if I believe that grandmother thing. Anyway, above all, she loves snuggling with her orange tabby Aries, you know. Yeah, if you can figure out how to get Aries to do housework, I'd pay you to come train Skittles and get her to do my housework for me. Come on up.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, thanks for having me back, everybody. Woohoo! Thanks, Karen. You know, Karen and I, and Linda, too, were together in Boulder Valley for a couple years. It was right when I became a practitioner in 2018, and just the voice brings back so many loving memories that it's nice that it's good. It's nice to be good. So now that I feel so happy and full of love, we're going to talk about prosperity today. Woohoo! And I know before we dive into today's talk, the name of the talk is Loaves and Fishes in the Faith of God. I'd want to just take a moment to acknowledge that there's been a lot going on in this world the last 2 weeks, and we might be just spread all over the place. Not just the election, we have stuff going on in our families, our personal life, and we just take a breath and know that this is life. This is part of life. And as we dive into talking about prosperity today, this is just one more aspect of our humanity, and to open your heart that you'll hear what you're here to hear, and that it's all good. And part of our focus in being in alignment with God, in knowing that oneness versus separation involves money and prosperity and our ability to manifest with intention. And with that said, a lot of what brings about that intentionality is our spiritual practice and prayer, particularly prayer. We had some beautiful prayers today. Thank you.
And I have a friend, Joe, who had a very strong spiritual practice, and every morning he prayed. And he got very comfortable talking with God. And one day he's praying and he says, God, how long is 1,000,000 years to you? And God said, 1,000,000 years, it's just like a second. It's just like a second. And the man said, God, how much is $1,000,000 to you? And the answer was, it's just like a penny. It's just like a penny. And the man sitting there, Joe's thinking he's got an opportunity. He says, God, can I have a penny? And the divine answered, sure, in a second. That's pretty good, huh? You gotta start with some laughter and open up our heart. And, I want to ask each of you to ask yourself, like Joe, how often are we looking for that quick fix? Man, he saw an opportunity and he's like, I got to go for it. And we're always looking for the opportunity, and particularly when it comes to abundance or money or prosperity, we want it to fall in our lap. Wouldn't that just be so wonderful? We want to win the lottery. We want to have a jackpot. And is it possible that any of that will happen? Sure, it's possible. Is it likely? Not really very likely, no. So today what we're going to explore is what it means to have faith and to have predictable, repeatable outcomes in our life. To produce what we want with intention in a repeatable manner so we know what we're doing. Because I don't know if you're like me, but sometimes I have money, lots of money, prosperity. Sometimes I don't. And it's not always like a constant. And I'm going to probably keep bringing it back to abundance. And we'll talk about money, but it doesn't have to be. Some of us do not prosper. It might be in relationships. It might be that we feel we're standing in lack when it comes to love or to community. It doesn't have to be prosperity specifically. So I try to make all my talks very personal so you can leave here with some kind of personal, something to go do personally. So I invite you to go within for just a moment and think about where are you lacking in prosperity right now. Doesn't have to be money. What is coming up for you where you're feeling lack? And that's what we're going to play around with. So make it individual to you. And how do we shift around any time that we're not feeling abundance or we're not feeling prosperity? This is how I feel like I start every single talk, but it always comes back to the same thing, is first it's understanding what is possible. What is possible? And to me, that backs into what do I believe about God? What do I believe about the universe or spirit? And it's very individual in many ways. Our New Thought, our Centers for Spiritual Living, our teaching teaches us that we are one with the divine. We are one with spirit. And that we have, spirit is in all people, all places, all things, and we have unlimited access to everything we could desire. Peace, joy, love, beauty, prosperity, freedom. We can name them all off. So the first kind of self-check is, do I believe that's true? And then the second check is, my brain might say it's true, but the results in my life are saying something very different. So where's the disconnect? It's identifying that disconnect, and then that's where our work begins. Starting to ask yourself questions, well, my mouth is saying I believe this, and my life is showing me otherwise. So what's going on? What am I not seeing? Where am I not knowing truth? And you can ask, do I believe I have enough? The story of Jesus with the loaves and fishes. Jesus had a crowd he was talking to a crowd of 5,000. He had, as the miracle goes, the story goes, he had 5 loaves of bread and 2 fishes, and his task was to feed the crowd of 5,000. And what did he do? The miracle tells us he fed them. All these people left. There was even food left over. And how did he do that? How did he do that? He didn't just pull it out of his cape like a magician, right? What did he do is he had that inner knowing that there was enough. He had that inner knowing that we are always taken care of. Not only am I always taken care of, but we all are always taken care of. And he trusted. And what did he do? He had this crowd of 5,000. He had his disciples break them into groups of 50. So he kind of broke it up so that they were in smaller groups. And as the groups came together, what we had was a community, a smaller community where you feel closer with people. You see them as humans and not the masses. And he gives thanks. He deepened in gratitude, and then he just started ripping the bread and handing things out. And what happened was not that the bread turned magic and there were millions of loaves. No, what happened was the people in community felt that safety and that trust, and they felt like they were amongst friends. And they pulled out of their baskets the food that they had brought, and they shared. They shared with each other. So that is the miracle. The miracle in it itself is knowing that there's always enough. Being inspired by faith. We do this through prayer oftentimes. Like Joe in our story in the beginning was doing the right thing. He was doing a spiritual practice. He just jumped at the opportunity for the quick, easy thing and was trying to avoid the spiritual growth that goes with the prosperity. That didn't need to happen with the loaves and the fishes. Jesus had that already going on for him. Here I am. I'd like to share this quote by Ernest Holmes, our founder. He says, "The power that Jesus manifested was divine. It was not the will of an individual, but his willingness to believe that gave him power. It was not a concentration of spiritual forces, like it's not the magic that he brought all his powers together, but rather a childlike and implicit faith in the reality of the spirit of human affairs." The childlike and implicit faith in the reality of spirit. So a couple things in here. The willingness to believe, I think, are key things, and the childlike implicit faith. So pulling up whatever it was that you had, your place of lack, where inside you can you find a place where you're not willing to believe the truth? What is spirit? What is God? What we teach here at New Dawn. Where can you find that disconnect? Willingness to believe, because the tricky part of this is what we're seeing is the lack. What we're seeing is the pain. What we're feeling is the low bank account, the lack, the not feeling connected, the loneliness, and that's real. How do we see differently? And I think that's really one of our biggest challenges as humans. We intellectually do the sacred study and come here on Sundays and we intellectually get it, but then we leave here and we go drive our car and go home and we see pain and hatred and suffering. We don't feel peace. So how do we see truth? And there's not like a cookie cutter answer to give you, really. We'll talk about it, keep talking on this theme, but I actually think it's a key. Teaching is to teach yourself to see differently. And we can start by just being open to see, just telling ourselves over and over again to be open to seeing opportunity where we might not usually see it, and learning to trust. The other thing that was in this quote was the childlike and implicit faith, which is beautiful in its own right, but I have a story to share. I have 3 daughters, and my youngest, Maddie, When they were growing up, I lived in Broomfield, and there's a swim and tennis club. We used to go every summer to the swim and tennis club and hang out and go swimming, and the kids play tennis, and there was this little shack that had like hot dogs and ring pops and soda and that kind of thing. And I always had we called it the beach bag, even though it was the pool. And I had a little bag I put all our change and dollars and just extra money in there so they could go get a snack or a treat. And one day we're there, and Maddie she's on a ring pop kick. She wanted a ring pop, and I didn't have any money in the bag. And I was like, sorry, Maddie, I don't have any change. You can't get anything today. And she was a little annoyed, being 5. And then she just left and went walking around. And then she was walking around the pool. It was gated, so it was a safe area. She comes back a while later, and she had $1. I'm like, Maddie, where'd you get? She goes, Mom, can I go get a ring pop now? I found $1. And it was kind of breezy. I said, Maddie, where did you get this $1? In my horror, I thought she walked up and asked somebody for $1 or something. She goes, Mom, it just blew right past me. I went walking around looking, and it just blew right by. And this was before I was into our teachings, and I just sat there, just wow. That's childlike faith. Like, she didn't know that money didn't just blow by. She just wanted a ring pop. She was like, well, it's like 50 cents or something. But the $1, what she was looking for, just blew right past her, and she grabbed it. So to me, that's that childlike faith, And what might that look like for us? The whole idea of the whole concept of that is we don't know what that might look like for us. It's letting go of the how and just knowing that it will. That's the trust. That's the faith. And I don't know about you, but for me, that's the hardest part because I'm a planner. My next 2 months, I have every single Sunday planned out. I have what I'm working on here, what I'm working on there. And I like to have a plan because it gives me a sense of security because it's how I get paid. It's how I contribute to the world. It lets me know when I have time for family or for cooking or for doing different things. I like to know and I like to plan. And I like to help things along. I wrote the daily guides for January for the Science Mind magazine. I was so excited because I've been trying to write those for like a year. And she had me do sample, I feel like I've been jumping through hoops. And then it's just been a whole series of things. I just on a separate note started this chaplain training, which was 18 weeks, and it's a lot more work than I thought. Sure enough, I start my chaplain training. It's at St. Anthony North Hospital, and Holly at the magazine says, well, can you write the daily guides for January? And they're due in 30 days. And, I wanted October, so I had 9 months. It's my first time writing them. That I was so I was like, Holly, please. But I couldn't say no because I've been asking. So I wrote the daily guides for January, and there's probably some mistakes in there. I was like, if you have time to edit, it would be great. But I got it done. They gave me a little pause at the chaplain training. So here I am now taking a breath. Got 5 weeks left in the chaplain training, and I'm like, hey, all my friends, I wrote the daily guides. I'd love to come speak in January. I'd love to do this. Everyone's already filled up January. So I'm like, oh, well, wonder what God has in store for me. How do I just let that go? Because my instinct is to make it happen, right? So my challenge with my childlike faith is not controlling what happens next, because there's probably something really beautiful that I have no idea what it could be. And that's not easy for me anyway. But that's just to give you an example. Another quote I'd like to share, which I just love this, by Wayne Dwyer. Abundance is not something we acquire, it's something we tune into. Isn't that beautiful? Mm-hmm. And while abundance, like everything else, I think it's a expanding, shifting, growing, changing energy. And I don't know about you, but every time I get one place, like everything, like I match the vibration and things are going, and then it all, I think it changes, yeah, and I'm asked to grow into whatever that next one is. Maybe that's what happens with the daily guides in January. Who knows? Maybe I just need a break for January too. It's something we tune into. And the quest with Joe and his conversation with God in the beginning, the joke, rather than match that vibration or tune into that vibration of $1 million or the penny, he looked for the quick fix. He was looking for the opportunity, and he was trying to skip it. And the whole purpose of all of this is us learning to tune into it and growing and stretching in new ways. And that applies to abundance, but it applies to everything. And it applies, I would say, to peace right now, whatever it is for you that is going on. How do we grow into knowing that in a new way, in a new place, in a new space? So I want to have another short story to share. It's called The Magical Soup Stone. There's a mysterious stranger that comes to town, and he claims he has this magical stone that you can cook soup with. No one believes him. So they put a pot on the fire, put the stones in, and everyone's standing around waiting for the magical soup to appear, and he's kind of stirring it. And he kind of says, this would probably be a little better if we had some spices. And of course, somebody like Nancy jumps up and goes, I got spices. Runs, gets some spices, throw them in the pot, and he's kind of stirring them around. And he says again, well, maybe some potatoes would be great. Mickey's like, I got potatoes. Brings her potatoes over. Carrots, chicken, some meat, some flour. The same thing happens. Everyone's popping up and adding to the pot. And wouldn't you know it, everyone was amazed at the amazing pot of soup, the wonderful soup that they all prepared together, the magical stone soup. And in many ways, this is like our lives, but also our community, like our spiritual community here. We each bring little bits and pieces. Karen brings the music. Russell brings some prayer. We bring a little bit of our lives and our stories here to the pot to create the community. It's a shared effort. It's a shared effort. And all of these ingredients, all of these people are what feeds our soul. And I think last week, the talk, Russell, you did the talk last week, was on shared abundance. It was on our relationships with others, right? How are you showing up? And how are others showing up within you when it comes to prosperity? Jesus had absolute certainty that everyone in the community would be fed. Like, it wasn't hard, it wasn't effort. And my understanding is, and I don't have this part of my notes, so I don't know it exactly right, but I read it 3 times that I feel obligated to share. The day before he did this with the loaves and fishes, he had learned that his dear best friend was murdered, John the Baptist. His head had been served on a platter, and he was crushed. He was crushed by the news. And he left and went out to the desert to be alone and to grieve. And I think he, in his grief, really emptied himself. Just emptied himself because they were so close. And then he came back, and we have this miracle of the loaves and fishes. What we witnessed was a beautiful example of oneness and no separation, right? Because that was what happened. So I wanted to share that story because it brings us back to us and our spiritual practice, and are we able to empty? Are we able to let it all go? I've had a hard time because I've been so busy with the chaplain stuff. It's 25 hours a week for 18 weeks. I thought it was okay, but it's a lot. And I have let my spiritual practice slip. Like, I do weddings, and I've just been busy, and this election, everything going on in the world, I felt it more than I usually do. And I think it's because I haven't given myself that time to go within and just empty. And I just ask each of you, as you're playing with whatever it was that you pulled up, your lack that we're working on growing through, are you giving yourself that space to empty and just let things go? The time and space, it's a discipline. No one says it's easy, but it's a discipline to do that. And while we're doing it, there's this consciousness of letting go of everything that doesn't serve you. And then there's this consciousness of seeing truth, seeing the opportunity, seeing the love, whatever it is that you're not knowing it's there and choosing to see it. We have to retrain ourselves to see. I have one more to share. I loved this quote by Joel Goldsmith. Our life's experience is the outpicturing of our own state of consciousness. Whatever limitations we are experiencing are the limitations of our state of consciousness, which we know this. They are going to continue until that state of consciousness develops and deepens and becomes enriched. Then the outer experience follows that new pattern. So he said, whereas I was blind, now I see. Our quest is to choose to see, knowing that the opportunity is there, knowing prosperity is there, abundance is there, whatever, love is there, community is there, peace is, knowing it's there, and then choosing to see it. And we can just practice every day. I choose to see. I choose to see. I choose. And you can't say how, you can't say what you're going to see or how you're going to say it, but you'll know it when it's there. You'll choose to see it. Like that is the big lesson in today. So at this time of Thanksgiving, we are invited to examine the lessons taught to us in the Loaves and Fishes story and how faith helps us move past any limitations we feel into a conscious state of abundance. Having childlike faith, deep thanksgiving, we can witness miracles in our life. Just imagine Maddie with the dollar blowing by. Just imagine that. Isn't that the best story? Yeah. I mean, we might want like the million to roll by, but it was a great story. So with that, I invite us into prayer. Take a deep breath and an exhale. Another deep breath and an exhale. And know that your heart has opened and received these beautiful teachings and messages from the divine, that spirit and that flow of abundance, of prosperity, of love and peace and ease and harmony and joy are all innately part of that energy we call God, that universal spirit that really has no words to describe it. It is part of me, it is part of you, it is all of us in community. Here at New Dawn Center for Spiritual Living, here in our state of Colorado, our nation, and across the world. There's no effort involved in knowing this truth. There's no force involved in embodying and harmonizing these vibrations of love, this knowing of more than enough, this vibration of abundance. It is with incredible ease and grace that we each realize this truth for ourselves, that we embody it fully in every cell of our bodies. And that as we leave this center today, we give thanks. We give thanks with the newness and the freshness that we see our lives, the prosperity and the boundlessness of our dreams, and how effortless it is to know that they come to realization. For it is ordained. It is God. It is why we're here, to express to know truth and to be the realizations of this as we move forward. We give thanks for these truths and for all of our blessings. And we release these words to the law, knowing without a shadow of a doubt that as these words are spoken, they are complete and it is released. And so it is.
I combined some prosperity songs, ones that you and I know, and I want to sing them for you. But what if you want some inspiration? Well, there's something you can do. If you want to hear these songs again, just go to New Dawn on YouTube. And guess what? They're going to be waiting right there for you. Like this one. God is my source. God is my power, right? God gives me everything I need. So I give thanks for all my blessings. God gives me everything I need. Do it again. God is my source. God is my power. God gives me everything I need. And I give thanks for all my blessings. God gives me everything I need. And then there's this one. Somebody we know wrote this one. When you give with love, live your life with love. Have a little faith, get in the flow, and that's how life changes and grows. When you give, you will receive. That's what we truly believe. It's true prosperity. One more. Well, I have to stop for just 1 second because my mind just is right back on that other tune and it needs to go away. All right. Here we go. I do believe I will receive, and I have to know and then declare it will be so with an open mind and a little bit of time. If I do my quiet good, then it will be mine. Bum 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 bum. Hey, bum 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 bum. Hey, yeah. I do believe I will receive. Just have to know and then declare it will be so with an open mind and a little bit of time. If it's for my highest good, then it will be mine. I do believe I will receive. I have to know and then declare it will be so with an open mind and a little bit of time. If it's for my highest good, then it will be mine. If it's for my highest good, then it will be mine. That's why I say, God is our source. God is our power. God gives us everything we need. And I give thanks so to you for all our blessings. God gives us everything we need. God gives us everything. God gives us everything. Take the opportunity to see it. God gives us everything. Take that opportunity to feel it. Take the opportunity and see and believe. God gives us everything we